With regard to managing your employee issues, if you like to know a straightforward, direct, practical path in terms of what to do when you're faced with the staffing issues, you need to understand that our law in Malaysia operates under two basic principles. The first requirement is called equity. Translated, equity means being fair. Now, if an employee that has been unfairly dismissed, be it for reasons related to absences, late coming, perhaps you decided to dismiss an employee over their persistent medical leave abuses. It might be an issue where your staff is a probationary staff and you decided not to confirm that employee, or that staff is a confirmed staff but perhaps has committed a major misconduct. It could have been in the form of a sexual harassment issue. It could have been in relation to a fraud or criminal breach of trust. It could have been in relation to a theft or maybe fighting at the workplace. In those situations, the terminating party would be the company. And if the employee lodges his or her complaint, it is important to note that the employee does not go to the industrial courts or the industrial relations process here and says, I have been illegally dismissed. Rather, the employee goes to the industrial relations department and says, I have been unfairly dismissed. So the first governing principle to managing your staff requires that managers for that regard, not be necessarily legalistically correct, but more show fairness in dealings with their employee issues. The second guiding principle of industrial relations is called burden of proof. Now, when it comes to burden of proof, we often think of burden of proof in terms of legal technicalities. And it helps us here because when a dispute between an employee and an employer happens, the industrial court will proceed to hear the case on the basis of who first shoulders responsibility for proving their case. Now, in this situation, is the burden of proof shouldered by the company or is it by the employee? It is in fact shouldered by the company. And here, you as the employer, as the manager in charge, will be required to demonstrate the burden of proof by showing documentation that you have on that particular employee.